age 10, my parents decided this is the right time to take us to India. Anyway, obviously we got on the plane. And then literally the next voice I hear is my grandmother, my Ba's voice. But I'd left her back in the UK.
Yeah.
She says, Dulcie, you've been involved in a plane crash. Mum, Dad and Kamlesh are no more and you look different. And when emotions build, we all need an outlet. And this is where addictions can start. I started abusing alcohol from a young age.
At what age was this?
Probably 13, 14. I was at a bus stop, waiting for the bus to go, and a car pulls up and there's a set of lights there. Yeah, 4 guys were there, wound down the window and said, you should have effing died, you're so ugly. But there were days when I wanted to give up because it was too much and I'm doing it on my own. And this is where life changes.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 5 of the Brick by Brick podcast. Today we have an amazing guest on our show today. If you ever thought of the word strength, resilience, determination, and it needed a form, well, the guest we have on today, I think epitomizes exactly that. So today I'd like to introduce Tulsi Vagjiani onto our show.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you very much. How are you doing? You
I'm
okay?
good, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming on today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And it'll be amazing to hear about your experience and your journey. And we want to just dive really deep into your life and where you started, what happened on the path and where you are today. So obviously we all ask all our guests, how was the journey in? Because we're in central London and London is known for being a crazy place.
Journey was as smooth as it can be in London.
So, getting straight into it, I wanted to ask, what do you do right now as for a living?
Well, I'm a motivational speaker.
Yep.
I also do a lot of campaign work for charity. I'm an ambassador for Changing Faces, and also I like to do media work, better representation out in the popular culture, in media. For someone with a visible difference, being South Asian and a woman, there was no one that looked like me when I was 10. So, obviously I touched upon my story, but there was no one that looked like me, so I struggled with who I was. But I want to be that role model for my 10-year-old self. I'm also a Reiki master, do like crystal healing, but more than anything else, I do a lot of empowerment coaching to help people come out of their lives where they feel stuck, because I know what it's like to feel stuck and I want to help people. And as we talked about earlier, which I know we'll touch upon, is always when you're feeling stuck and you think there's no solution, there's always a solution. And I think that's what I want to touch on.
Oh, it's great to hear, and I think everybody's going to want to hear about when you're stuck. What do you do? Where do you go to? How do you get out of a situation? And we'll touch on that on the show today. But let's take it back from when you're a young child and the memories you had as a young kid growing up, where you grew up. How was school life, and then let's take it on from as we go from there.
Yeah. So just a happy-go-lucky girl. I was very boisterous. For me, from a young age, like my granddad, my papa, and my dad were both like my role models. I always wanted to hang out with them. They came from sort of the building industry, so a lot of our community can resonate with that as well. And I wanted to be with them. I wanted to be like them. I liked the whole hands-on thing. And my dad's sort of speciality was being a plumber, so I'd like going on jobs with him. But I was that young girl in the playground who was fighting the bullies. So sort of indirectly, I became a bully, right? Because I was fighting the bullies. So I'd get in trouble quite a lot. I was at the head teacher's office quite a bit. And my parents were very, very liberal for somebody, rewinding back 30 odd years ago, very liberal. And I've grown up in around a lot of love. And, in hindsight, I can always reflect and say that. But Fridays were our treats. So my mum always had this ethos that life is so short. Live it and enjoy it. And she liked me and my brother to have really nice things. So anyway, Friday was treats. So I'd always say to her, please don't tell Dad because we're going to lose our treat. And lo and behold, obviously she would tell my dad and he'd tell me off. And one of the few times is whilst going up the stairs, I'd sit at the top of the stairs and I could hear them in the living room. And my dad would say, my mum would say to my dad, what are we going to do with her? What do we do? we raised a firecracker, really, like, what do we do? And they'd laugh. So it wasn't even a case of like, oh my God, we're going to reprimand her or punish her. They just didn't know what they were doing. But I think they knew what kind of girl they were raising. And that's what I had in me, that innate spirit of injustice. I'd fight injustices. Now, in life then, it was a playground in school. Now, fast forward where I am, I'm fighting injustices, but the playground is bigger. It's the world now, So that's always been in me. And then, so like I said, happy-go-lucky girl, great sense of community, coming from the SKLPC community. So I'm from Geragam, so we know like Geragam, we know Gamna Halls, and then we know Samaj. So that was what I knew as my first point of social. And I loved it, loved the whole spirit, dancing and all of that. And then age 10, my parents decided this is the right time to take us to India. This would have been the first time we've gone to see my great-granddad. So he hadn't seen his Bappa in 23 years.
Okay.
So it's a great time to go. So off we went. It's going to be like a 3-month tour of India, north, south, and everything in between. But me and my brother, all we knew of India was Goa.
Okay.
So we had no concept of what India looked like. So we just thought it's just beaches, blue skies and beaches, right? What the brochure tells you. And then, and we get there and, our luggage was lost. So we arrive at the GAM. And at that time, they didn't send the luggages to the home addresses. We had to go to Mumbai
to pick them up, innit?
to pick them up. So we got a phone call sort of a week and a bit later whilst we're there, and we have to go and collect it. So my parents decided, well, why don't we tour the south of India whilst we're there?
Makes sense,
and then come back to my Bappa and see what, and see the north. So off we went to Mumbai, and then they sort of planned this route to the south, Uti, Mysore, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, and all of that. I had no idea what all these were at the time. So when we found out we're going to Bangalore, it was like, who the hell is Bangalore? Because we thought it was a person.
Yeah.
No idea.
Yeah.
So we're going Goa then. It's like, yeah, we'll be eventually going. No, but we're going Goa. And they're like, no. And I remember me and my brother holding onto the railing going, we don't want to go. Anyway, obviously we get on the plane. And my brother gets to sit by the window. Me in the middle, my dad, and then my mom on the other aisle. And all I remember is the blue skies and the green fields.
Yeah.
Like in the UK, obviously we don't see blue skies. We do see green fields. And I just remember going, why does he always get his way? Because he got to sit by the window.
Yeah. Was your brother older than you?
He was younger than me.
Younger than you, yeah.
And and anyway, just fighting with him. And then literally the next voice I hear is my grandmother, my Ba's voice. But I'd left her back in the UK, so 2 weeks ago. And she's here in front of me, and her voice is very clear. Now, what she tells me to what I comprehend is two different things. She says, Dulcie, you've been involved in a plane crash. Mum, Dad, and Kamlesh are no more, and you look different. At which point, in my head, I'm like, they've come to surprise us on the plane, because I don't remember seeing her in the queue.
Yeah.
So that's what's going through my head. So what she's telling me, I haven't comprehended yet. A young medic's voice comes sort of next. Don't worry, Dulcie, I'm going to take care of you. You're in hospital, or the doctors are out in the airfield, they're attending to casualties, but don't worry, I'm going to take care of you. I comprehended that as he's the air steward, and he's just passing by with the drinks trolley or whatever. Like, that's the voice, because it's not familiar.
Yeah. So at no point did you ever understand or realize what had actually happened?
No, at this point I have no idea what impact. My eyes are bandaged. I'm obviously in and out of sedation. And at this point, I know I haven't got long to live. Like, I think I was given between 9 to 15 hours at this stage.
Yeah.
I'm flown back to the UK via air ambulance with another family. They're from London. Never met them before.
Yeah.
But we had mutual connections. So by the time my Bappa had got there and their family got there from London, they formed a connection. And we've got some sort of links. Anyway, flown back with them. I remember talking to the gentleman, again, not realizing who these people are, but for me, they just could be, I'm talking to them on the plane.
Yeah.
It's when I land here in the UK, I'm transported to St Andrew's Hospital in Billericay in Essex.
Yeah.
Here now, I'm met with my mamas and all the other family members, my cousins, sense of familiarity. they literally repeat what my ba had said, but in my head they've come to surprise us in India. I thought, great, my family are with me in India, we're going to have this party. In and out of sedation, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So the amount of skin grafts I'm having, being treated for smoke inhalation, so, you know, I'm not aware of day, time or concept at all. Like, I have no concept of anything. They visit me daily, they show up for me daily, but I don't know what's going on. By this sort of stage, my ba and bapa are now back from India after doing all the sort of rituals and stuff, and slowly dawning, like it's daunting to hear their voice and all the very somber tone to their voice. But I'm like, why are you all sad if you're on this journey with me in India? Like, I don't get it. Then it sort of comes a time, I think it's about 4 to 6 weeks, where there's an opportunity now where they're going to take the bandages away from my eyes now. Just want to check my eyes and everything else.
So for that whole 4 to 6 weeks, your eyes had been
Yeah,
bandaged?
so I had no concept.
No concept
yeah,
of
so like I
what
said, I
was
was in
around
and out of
you,
theatre, skin grafts, and all of that was going on. And I remember the nurse asking me, like, would you like to see yourself in the mirror? And I'm like, of course I would, because in my head, nothing's changed. I'm still Tulsi, who's the prankster, who's boisterous, who's loud. So I was still that. But everyone around me went, because they'd gone somber. Obviously, realizing now, they were mourning massive losses and navigating this child who's, what do we do with her, right? So anyway, the mirror thing happens, and it's a handheld mirror, and they all looked quite worried, like the consultant, the nurses, I think. And they've always said, I don't think you realize the severity of that moment. And I said, no, I don't think I did. But anyway, held the mirror. The person in the mirror, I thought somebody drew that face on, because where I'm a prankster, I thought somebody drew that face. I was like, no way can anyone look like that. And then the person in the mirror who's blinking the eyes and moving the mouth, and I realized that's me. So when I looked down at my left hand at the time, it was red raw, the scars and that, and there was metal rods sticking out my fingers to straighten them. Now, whether it's naive or whether it's optimistic, I thought in a year's time it's going to be like this magic cloth. It's all going to go away. It's no big deal. There's nothing to stress about. And that's my mindset at that point. Going back on everything else, I think that's been my mantra for most of my life. It's no big deal. It's all good. And I think that's got me through quite a few things. Anyway, in hospital, everyone's treating me like Tulsi. There's no difference. It's when I leave hospital and life starts now. The bullying, the name calling, people crossing the road in case they catch things. You know, just that's where it all stems from. And it's the little comments that I could hear. And then in our community was the toughest, because the judgment had started. The judgment started of, look, who's going to marry her? Who's going, you know, what life is she going to have now? That's it. She's end of life. You know, like there's nothing to her. And I could hear that, but inside there's this spirit was like, I'm more than this. And where I hated people judging people before my accident, and here people are judging me on the way I look, I think that frustration, that injustice was building and building, but I didn't know how to have that outlet. And of course, in our community, there's no emotional support. So a thing is, we don't talk about things. So hence why I had to shut up and put up. So I suffered in silence. And I know I'm not the only one. I know many of our listeners here would be totally in that boat where suffering in silence is a thing. Well, you know, it's not a thing. It's not acceptable. It should not be acceptable, and it's not something I advocate. Because as the more we share our story, the lighter it feels. So yeah, I couldn't share. So the emotions were building. And when emotions build, we all need an outlet. And this is where addictions can start. So I had a few addictions at the time. So I started abusing alcohol from a young age.
At what age was this?
Probably 13, 14. So, you know, meeting an older crowd of people, it's a thing to do. Started sort of drug abuse. You know, you start off with like weed, and then was doing things like cocaine and heroin. But at the end of a bottle, at the end of a line, I still wasn't fulfilled, you know. There were still no answers. Not that I had questions, but there were still no answers. I still feel empty. And then I started abusing food, because food is easy to do. Coming from a community where we're always hosting, food's in abundance.
Yeah.
And from a young age, I started cooking quite early. So where like my pocket money I'd often use to buy food items, because my gran was a little bit old school in that way. She didn't really nurture me in a way that she should have. So I started looking after myself early. I'd use my pocket money to buy crisp and loads of crisp and eat them. And because I could eat them in my room, all the wrappers I'd keep in my school bag and I'd chuck them on the way to school.
Okay.
So no one knew.
Yeah.
But the weight was piling on. So now comes a judgment on the weight. And you know, in our community, we're so known for ridiculing anyone on their external appearance. And that needs to stop on such a big scale. You know, you've gone fat, you've gone skinny, you look healthy, you look, oh, not healthy. It's all determined on how we look. Those words stick so deep to someone.
Yeah.
And this is where we need to change the narratives a lot. And sometimes we might even joking, oh, you put on a bit of weight. Like, it may seem like a banter, but sometimes someone's words can mean more than somebody else's words.
Yeah.
And even though it might have been done in banter, you don't know where that person is in that journey or that day. And they might observe them. Yeah?
It hurts more than you feel it might do, you know?
Totally.
Yeah. And I think you made a great point just about the judgment on the external. Nobody seems nowadays to spend time and look at the internal qualities of somebody. You know, I think nobody on this earth can say they're 100% positive or 100% great or they got all the best quality and there's nothing wrong with them. Everybody has some sort of a personality trait that might not be the best thing, but I think it's a natural reaction. And when you hit the nail on the head when it's our community as well, that, oh, look at them, oh, look at that, oh, look at this, oh, look at that, oh, she's done that, oh, he's done that, oh, he's done that. But nobody ever took a bit of time to say, okay, maybe there's a reason why that's happened. How can we support them or help them? Or if anything, at least, I can't do anything for you, but at least if I see you, we'll be nice and civil with each other. And we'll be, you know what, how's everything? Everything okay? And I don't need to talk bad about you. But when you hear these things in the background, once or twice, you can brush it off. But constantly, and you said constantly, this was happening all the time.
And if it's not, forget the external community, it's within my own family, right?
Ah, okay. That makes it just
and it's constant digs and, you know, at a party and you're scared to take that extra bit of food or whatever because of the judgment. And don't realise the impact those sort of things have, you know. And then obviously the external community comes into play as well, because they were my first point of social for many of us, which was the case, right? To then feel let down by them, it's like, who do I turn to? So I had no one to turn to. And you know, you're not born an alcoholic. You're not born a drug addict. You're not born anything, right? You're just a pure soul. The first thing you've learned to navigate is the breath outside. It's all the expectations that's put upon you. Then you're determined what kind of person you're going to be, and you live to that expectation, not what you're meant to do in life, right? So all these things are predetermined from external stuff. So I was fighting all of that. So all these external expectations were put upon me from this age 10, and I was carrying that. So they were heavy. The weight just got heavier and heavier. So not only is it mental weight now, I'm carrying physical weight, emotional weight, and now spiritual weight. So all four of my heart chambers are carrying weights. It's got bigger and bigger. I've got bigger and bigger myself. Not happy. And, you know, that's how life is. But I don't think people realise that we're so quick to look at other people, but we're not looking at ourselves. So these, especially, I think it's not so much in our generation now. I mean, surely there must be, but it's our parents and then the grandparents, and that's where the scars have come down from, right? It's because they've got nothing better to do. So it's easy to criticize everyone else except look at themselves. Because the truth, as I always say, is one thing I live by is the truth, right? Not mine, but the universal truth, right? And that's the one I can't bend. I can bend my truth. You know, I can bend my truth till the cows come home, but I cannot bend the universal truth. And to look at the universal truth, one hand is very ugly because it's not a lie. It's raw.
It is what it is.
But on the other side, it's the most liberating feeling. Why do you not want liberation? I don't understand. You know, why do you not want to feel free? So why do you want to be stuck here judging others and not look at yourself? Like, I couldn't think of anything worse. Like, looking at myself is it's the best thing I can do every day. To show up and be a better person every day,
Yeah.
I need to be better. There's no point me expecting you to change if I'm not putting the change in.
Yeah.
It cannot work that way. So, you know, one of my famous quotes that I absolutely live by is, be the change you wish to see in the world.
Yeah.
And the other one, Man in the Mirror, you know, Michael Jackson.
Yep.
Classic example.
It's something that it's a skill now. It's something that's it's an underrated skill. If you're able to introspect and see what are the traits within yourself that you wish to change, and then getting the right support or trying yourself to be a better person and to improve yourself. And other people, like we said, you can see things. You see things in your own family that, you know, there's certain traits in people that they're not the greatest. But like you said, you can control yourself. You might not be able to control other people, like we said, but I can change myself. But so when it comes to that change, you know, what do you think is the biggest sticking point in people wanting to change?
You've got to address what it is, right? Like, I'll give you an example. So for a long time, I never felt beautiful because no one told, as in, it's not about no one told me. I never felt beautiful, bottom line. So if I'd go out to a bar, I wasn't the girl a guy looked at twice, right? So I wasn't the beautiful girl in the bar. It's what I use quite a lot. But I was like, hang on, what makes her look beautiful? She might have her own insecurities. I don't know.
Yeah.
I presumed it on the external. I'd go home and start looking at myself. What is it about her that I can't see in me? This is where I started to do the work. I'm not jealous of anyone anymore because I'm not empty anymore. Do you know what I mean? I've filled my cup so much that I'm not looking externally anymore. There's no external validation for me. You know, I sit here in front of you and I'm going to be very frank, I don't care what you think about me because it's not important to me. Okay, but we have a mutual respect and that's what we're giving each other. But in terms of what you think of me, it makes no difference to my life. And that's where we all need to be. But that takes time and work. And that means, like I said, looking at the ugly side of ourselves. And when I say the ugly side, I mean the dark and the shadows.
Yeah.
We need to address those. So those things that are, the older generation were like, oh, she's like this, he's like that, she's like... If they had to address that in themselves, they wouldn't be able to. They wouldn't be able to. Take lockdown. Lockdown cornered us to look at ourselves.
Yeah.
How many people were going crazy because they were bored, they were this. But if they sat down and faced themselves, they would have actually learnt a lot.
Yeah.
What do they want to do? Escape.
We didn't like spending time with ourselves.
No, we didn't like spending time on our own. And silence is one thing people absolutely hate.
Yeah.
They want to feel silence because silence means you've got to look at yourself. Whatever it means, if it's thinking or looking at yourself. For me, I love that. Silence is my favourite sound next to the Om. 3 sounds I love: Om, silence, and the laughter of children. 3 sounds that I'm, absolutely my favourite. But people don't want the silence because it means looking at themselves.
Yeah.
Lockdown was a prime example for us to work on ourselves. Not many did, some did, hats off. But we want to escape. I'm going to take that 1 hour exercise, I'm going to go for it. And we used so many distractions, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
But if we looked at ourselves, we'd need to pick at other people. And that's what it is. It's addressing whatever you're looking at in the other person, it's addressing it within you. Because everyone's a mirror of each other.
Yeah, definitely. And I wanted to just take it back a little bit. So when did the realization sink in of what had actually happened to you? So you said 4 to 6 weeks, your eyes were covered with bandages. And at what point was it? You were 10 when it happened, right? Was it a couple of years later? Was it after you'd taken the bandages off?
Various times. So age 12, 13, I finally made peace with the fact my parents weren't coming back. So up till that point, I felt they've lost their passport, they can't come back. It's really difficult, how do they prove they're from the UK? And all this was all going through my head. And then the realization after I visited the accident site, which was 1993, I laid a wreath there. Now, it happened at the Bangalore airport. So just the plane landed at the runway as it was landing. Now, when you go there was no X marks the spot. It's just a concrete slab, nothing to it, nothing fancy. But when I got there, something in me felt, this is familiar. But bearing in mind, I didn't see anything.
Yeah.
And I don't know about souls at the time. I know about it now, but at the time I was like, why does this place feel familiar? And I cried. I cried as if I've never cried and had never cried to this level. Like I said, there was no X marks the spot. But I laid the wreath And I think that's when I kind of made that peace that they're not coming back.
Yeah.
That something has happened. Then I think the biggest realization probably was about 20 years after the accident, to be honest.
Okay.
So it took 20 years. 20 years, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to mark the anniversary my way, not what's dictated upon me. And it's fine, you know, my family members, they did different things like Vagjiani, this, that, and that's all good. But that didn't feel right to me.
Yeah.
And I said, no, I'm going to do it my way. So in Woolwich, there's a little place where they'd go and do ashes and stuff. So I went there, got a wicker basket, and I filled it with things like 3 roses bind together, some nuts and stuff, and it all kind of seafood friendly stuff, so if there's whatever's in the river, and sort of biodegradable wicker basket type thing. And I filled it and I sealed it, and when I was ready I let it go. And that was my way of doing almost like a funeral for myself, because I never got to do that. And I had friends from different sort of faith, and everyone read a piece of like a peace scripture. And then we did Hanuman Chalisa,
Nice.
Gayatri Mantra, and then they all recited their own thing. And you know, I had the most amazing sense of peace. And I thought I'd cry, but it wasn't even about the crying. I just had peace. And that's the day I thought, wow, like my life can change for me. I can create the change I want. And that's when it changed.
And you said you thought you might have, you know, you cried, but you felt peace and stuff. And I want to just touch on the grief element of it. How did you get a chance to grieve? Or you said 20 years later the realization happened, but how did you, at such a young age, did you deal with the fact that your parents have passed away, your brother has passed away, and you know it's a horrific accident, it's a bad situation?
I think obviously culturally it's one of those, you know, it's happened now, get over it. So that, I suppose, in a way is a saving grace, but it's detrimental, right? It's detrimental to mental health. Saving grace in that I didn't have to talk about it. It's done now. But the other detriment is watching people around me with their parents and knowing I'm missing out. I'm missing out on the guidance. So don't get me wrong, people encompassing. But when I went home, that was missing. I didn't go home to a loving family. Grandparents, there's a disconnect. They're not that emotional kind of people. We don't talk about anything, very practical, the way I grew up anyway. So grief just kept getting bigger and bigger. And then obviously inside the grief and the emotions is, like I said, the addiction had started. It's sort of, you know, lots has happened in my story, but like where my depression had reached its peak, year 2000, so I don't even recognize myself at this stage. For a petite girl, I was really big. You know, for a lady size, I went up to size 24. And an average for my size, I'm a 14, 16, give and take. So it's quite a lot of weight emotionally and mentally. So the quick thing is, okay, we'll go gym and start eating healthy. That's all well and good. Yes, the weight was coming off, but internally I still wasn't feeling good. So the point is, losing weight doesn't mean you're going to get fixed with mentally. That's the point of it. There's still work for me to do. In all of that, I'm still crying out for my parents, but thinking, well, what's the point of crying for them if they're not here? Just get on with it, T. What's the point? If they're not here, there's nothing you can do. So I left that sort of mindset there, and I thought, I don't need them. I'm good on my own. I've done this, got here as, you know, on my own as far as I've got here. I don't need them. So that barrier went up. That's what grief does. Barriers come up. And then it's only in the last 10 years now that I've actually been working on the grief. And to conclude, and I always say, is grief resides next to us. It's not something that needs to be healed or worked on. It's not something that you need to keep at it and one day it's going to disappear. No, grief, the other side of grief is love. They both come hand in hand. Left and right, black and white, yin and yang, you know, masculine, feminine, it resides. So once you know it resides, you don't ever need to know that it's going to go away. Why would you want grief to go away? That means you're getting rid of memories of the person who existed. So grief can reside. This morning, Classic example. I shared a post. I said my heart was hurting today because grief hit me like a ton of bricks. But yet I'm sitting in front of you and I'm able to deliver a podcast because it's residing next to me. It's not invading me, it's just sitting there.
Yeah.
And that's what it can do.
That's a really different perspective looking at it. It's almost like you're not letting that take control over you. It's, you know it's there. And actually the way you said it, in terms of that, why get rid of that memory? It might be attached to something maybe negative or something that hurt you, but it's still a memory nonetheless. So why forget that?
Yeah.
And that's it. And we don't look at it that way. Any grief that I may have suffered or anybody suffers, the general thing is that we should heal it, get rid of it, get it out of our system, and then you'll be fine. But actually letting it sit with you, and on the other side of grief, there's love, is a completely different perspective.
Well, look, I'm 33 years on this year from the accident, and it hit me today.
Yeah.
So if I lived the life of it's never going to happen, and one day it does, oh my God, my life's over now because it's hit me. No, it can come at any time. And another thing about anniversaries, we talk about souls, and then we talk about Gregorian calendar, two different things, okay? 14th of February 1990 is when my accident happened. 14th of February, what do we know as Valentine's Day? So it's a date you can't even forget.
Yeah.
Now, on the 14th of February, I might wake up and not feel anything. I might feel joyous. But suddenly, because it's an anniversary, I need to feel sad. What if I don't feel sad? But today I do feel sad. But I'm not allowed to mark it because it's not 14th of Feb. Like, the soul knows when it wants to grieve. We're the physical vessel of what our soul's going through, okay? So the soul uses our heart. The heart's expression is our eyes, and the eyes cleanse by water. That's how it works. We can't get out of that system. It's just how it works. The soul will remember something. It might not be this lifetime, it might be in something else. But it will come through grief, and grief will come through the eyes, right? And the thing is, don't be fixated on dates. Don't be fixated that on this day I must feel sad. If you feel sad, feel sad. If you feel happy, feel happy. Whatever you feel, feel. But I don't mark 14th of February anymore. I used to on my socials. 31 years, 30 years. I used to do that. Why? Why do I do it? It doesn't sit with me. So again, I came out of that cycle. I went, I mark the day I want to. As superficial as 14th of Feb might be, hearts and flowers and the fake cards and that, I give little gifts to my girlfriends.
Yeah.
If it makes them feel good, isn't that what Valentine's is anyway?
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's how I have changed the narrative. So I'm here to be a game changer. I'm here to show we can flip scripts.
Yep.
We don't need to be in a regurgitate system anymore. We can come out of things. We can just take control of our lives in a way that feels right for us. And that's what how I got out of it. But like I say, I don't want grief to go away.
Yeah. It's important. It's an important, not baggage, but it's something important to have with you. I've learned that straight away when you said the memory thing, and I'm trying to think, on a certain day someone passed away, and you should feel sad, and it's grief, and it's a sad moment. So everyone in the house is a bit quiet. No one's making any jokes. There's no fancy food out on the table. Nothing. It's just, and doesn't need to be like that. Why does it need to be like that?
No.
Yeah.
It should be a celebration.
Yeah.
Like when it's Janmashtami, we go all big full-on drama.
Yeah.
Like food and whatever. Why we're not doing this? Like, death is not a sad point.
Yeah.
Death is important. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I've said it. I've said it to all my family people. I want you to be dancing. I want joy. I want reggae music. I want you guys to dress up.
Yeah.
I don't want none of this sadness. I want full on, dum dum stuff, and I want the band going on, and I want that.
You want a celebration?
Oh hell yeah! Like, I didn't come here for you guys to be sad.
Yeah.
I've come here, learn things from me, but celebrate me. And this is how we're going to flip it.
Yep.
We don't need sombra. Why do we... I don't get it.
It's just almost doing what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
We're known to do this, so let's just do that. There's no... we're allowed to feel different. We're allowed to be different.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
And doing it respectfully still.
Yeah, still respectfully, yeah, of course.
Right?
Yeah.
So we're not doing anything wrong. So that's it. And the only thing you're doing wrong is by yourself.
Yeah.
And any injustice you cause yourself is injustice to the world, I say.
Yep. Some already. We're only, not even halfway through the podcast. There's already some amazing material out there. Now, something that I think everybody can learn from. There's going to be something in this podcast, and to hear your story and to hear about how you just have a different perspective on life. It doesn't need to be what everyone else is thinking.
Yeah.
You're allowed to think different. You're allowed to feel different. It's absolutely fine. But then finding the right ways to do what you need to do in life. Yeah, and I want to ask you, children, they can be quite, in the nicest way, judgmental, or they see it as they say it as they see it. So how was it, sort of teenager years going? Did you have a bit of a gap after you went back to school? Did you go straight to secondary school?
No. So I left hospital June. So I had about a month for primary.
Yeah.
Last year of primary. Great. I was
Yeah.
excited to go back because I thought, brilliant, my sense of normality. And don't get me wrong, my friends were fantastic. They tried to be inclusive as much as they could. But bearing in mind, if you think back age 10, stroke 11, their friend has changed.
Yeah.
And we forget, or I forget, just how hard that must have been. The Tulsi who left in Feb to who's come back is two different people.
Yeah.
Yet they're trying to create normality for me. But they were great. My secondary school, fantastic. School, institution is a really strange word, but they're my safe places.
Yep.
Hospital was my safe place. School was my safe place. Any education system was my safe place because everyone accepted me for me. It's the journey to and from places. It's the community. Okay. And, we touched on children, but yes, a lot of children were very, very cruel. But if I step back now, and I'm come from a very different hat now, children are inquisitive. I mean, you've got children yourself.
Yeah.
They're inquisitive. If we don't pique their interest and we shut them down, that's where their judgments will form. But if we allow them to explore it in a manner that's respectable for both parties, once they pique their interest, they're bored.
Yeah.
They move on.
Yeah, to the next thing, yeah.
That's literally it. So when I see parents now, especially if I'm on the underground and a child will look and, say, example, the child's with the mother, and people are like, no, don't look, or shh. And I would always say, no, let them ask whatever it is. Doesn't matter how inappropriate it is.
Yeah.
It's in their head. They're just inquisitive.
Yeah.
What they're going to do with this info, they're just either going to dilute it or they want to know a bit more. Then once they know a bit more, they'll get bored. That's it.
Yeah.
But once you pique that interest for them, they don't have time to build up judgment now. All they have is, okay, cool, she just looks that way.
Yeah. Just move on to the next
Move
thing.
on, and that's it. So don't shush your children. Let them explore, and this is how they're going to build the model of the world and look at people differently.
Yeah. So it's interesting. You said the school itself and your friend circles was a great place for you. It was a safe place for you. It was everything else around it, getting to and from those places. And we mentioned the community before. How was it sort of then? As you get a bit older, you understand things a bit more, and you had that sort of uni age, and you're sort of maybe looking for a job. How was that kind of situation? How was it being in that scenario at that
Torture.
time? Yeah.
That's the word I'd use.
Yeah. Torture.
Torture. So quite a few significant moments. So I did a psychology degree, but I didn't enjoy it, and it's not what you think psychology. It's not theories. It was basically stats, and I'm not a maths head, so for me it was torture. But anyway, it was fine. But in that time I was looking for work, and work for me has been constant rejection. CV's been ripped in front of my face, in
front of you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Letters coming home, sorry Miss Vagjiani, your face doesn't fit our company. It was those kinds of rejection letters. So as you can imagine, that's adding to the depression that much more.
Yeah.
Low self-esteem, low self-worth at this stage. It's at its optimal. So I'm now going to sign on. It was like a job seeker's allowance at the time. And that's in itself is so debilitating anyway. But there's one scene at a bus stop, and I think it's very important and poignant, is I was at a bus stop waiting for the bus to go, and a car pulls up, and there's a set of lights there. And there's 4 guys in there. I mean, I like to call them guys, but I think I'm doing injustice to decent men of this world, to be honest. But 4 guys were there, wound down the window and said, "You should have effing died, you're so ugly." At which point I never realised they were talking about me.
Yeah.
So I look around at the bus stop and realise I'm the only one there. I was like, they've just reiterated what I've heard other people say.
Yeah.
And if this is how the world sees me, what is the point? Like, what is the point of existing if this is how the world sees me?
You. Yeah.
So I had a choice. 1 foot on the curb and 1 foot on the road. There's a bus coming, the one I want to get on. I had a choice, and I was that close. And the thing that came to my head was, I'll be letting the job centre down, then they'll contact my grandparents, and God forbid I bloody survive this, the grief I'm going to get from my grandparents is going to be far worse. Get on the bus. I'm obviously shaken and a mess. Get to the job centre, and I don't know if anyone's been to the job centre, but it's horrible the way they're quite intrusive and why haven't you done this, and whatever. But the lady at the job centre was incredible. She saw I was shaking. She sat me down. She took me in a sort of private room. She goes, "Don't worry about the job search. I'm worried about you." And she got me water, and I couldn't even hold the glass. And what happened? And I couldn't speak. And she goes, "Look, I'm going to sign you off. Don't worry, it's all good." Sat there for about half an hour, 45 minutes. She showed me compassion. And she showed me kindness. And I thought, wow. She got me a cab home. She goes, "I don't want you to face anyone. Just go home, rest, and do what you got to do." From that situation of 1 foot on the road and 1 foot on the curb to someone show me compassion in one day, that's when I realised this is what the world needs, is compassion. That we don't know what's going on for anyone, right? Behind this exterior, we really don't know what's going on. And if we can show someone love and compassion, that's what we need to do.
Yeah.
That's the difference. That's the missing ingredient to a lot of this stuff. She just tried to listen, but I couldn't speak.
Yeah.
I think what changed for me that day was I have a lot more to live for.
Yeah.
But what I realised is it wasn't the job centre I was letting down or anyone else. It was myself that I would have been letting down, right? If I didn't show up. So there have been loads of significant moments in my life where life has been tough. Jobs with constant rejection. So I'm adding all of that on top of already feeling rubbish. Then I go to uni now, so my second degree.
Yeah.
That's where life changes for me, because now I've got a sense of purpose. I do applied health sciences.
Okay.
So there's a lot of biology and physiology and all that. I love things like that. So I specialised in Pilates and therapeutic massage. Now Pilates has been very pivotal in my journey.
Yeah.
So year 2000, when the weight had piled on and I'd gone to the gym, I joined a Pilates class, and I realised I had mental strength, but I didn't have physical strength.
Okay.
And my body was very weak. And I had one-to-one Pilates. My instructor used to come to my house. And one thing I learned about Pilates is, I don't know if you know much about it, but it's your finer muscles you work on, right?
Okay.
So it's not the gross only. So the whole point of this is it's the inside out. And my journey has always been the inside out.
Yeah.
And one question which I know comes up is, like my relationship with God and beauty. Why did God take my beauty away? Even at the age of 10, I didn't know what beautiful meant, because I'm in that time and generation where that wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
Designer clothes wasn't a thing that time. It only came a bit after, or looking a certain way. But what I've realised in today when I conclude my life is the journey was always meant to be inside out.
Yeah.
And the beauty had to come from the inside out. And that's where I'm at today with my sense and beauty. So yeah, Pilates was pivotal. And everything that's happened in my life, in whatever thing, has always been the inside out. It's never been the outside.
Yeah.
Yet I was fighting the outside because I measured everything on the outside. So yeah, I did my degree. And then in the midst of my degree, life changes again. And you just think, wow, 16 years, life was happening.
Yep.
Now it's changing again. So not feeling good, feeling quite, being in old stuffy lecture halls, feeling very dizzy and claustrophobic and nauseous. I said, this doesn't feel right. Got myself checked out, got diagnosed with high blood pressure,
Okay.
which at the age of 26 was quite high.
Yep.
But my GP was like, well, I'm not going to be too concerned. It could be an infection or something. Thursday, I go for blood test. Friday, they give me blood pressure medication. Of course, they're not going to kick in overnight.
Yeah.
The weekend, I feel horrendous. Monday, ready to go uni, and I just don't feel right in myself. Go to my GP. As I get there, they also ring to say your blood results are here. So within 4 days, they're already here.
That doesn't generally happen.
That doesn't happen.
Yeah, 2 or 3 weeks
Yep.
go by before you get results.
So the fact that they've arrived is like, okay. And my GP looked at me kind of, not gravely, but a bit like, we need to get you to A&E.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, okay, but I've got lectures and stuff. Can I not go later? He goes, no, you just go now. He goes, it could just be an infection. So he was trying to downplay it a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think he knew. Anyway, looked, A&E, minimum at that time was 4 hours. Now, you're looking at 12, whatever it is. 4 hours. I was seen within 20 minutes.
Wow. Okay. Did it start thinking to you
Nope.
that something is happening or
Nope. I was just like, cool, whatever it is, it is. You know that mantra? It's no big deal.
Yeah.
That was still playing
Still
here.
playing on, okay.
And it's whatever it is, cool, man. I bet it's just a scratch anyway, and they're making a big deal. It's like my attitude. And and then within the hour I have a ward and a bed. And from arriving to A&E, the bed and everything, within 3 hours I'm now having a biopsy of my kidneys.
Okay.
At which point I think, where the hell did my kidneys come into play? I didn't know there was anything wrong, I still pass urine as ignorant as I am, about the body. And biopsy lying there for 24 hours in one position. Next day the consultant comes around, draws the curtains, and I was like, okay. And my kaki's there, she's been quite pivotal again in my journey. And she's sitting there, and he says, you've got end-stage renal failure.
Oh.
But when I hear that,
Yeah.
I hear you are dying. That's what I heard.
Yeah.
I didn't hear anything he says after that, which is, don't worry, you can be on dialysis and you can have transplant and blah, blah, blah. I didn't hear any of that. I just hear you're dying. And I was like, in the middle of doing something I love, are you telling me I'm going to die in a hospital bed?
Yeah.
Like, are you for real? So that's what was going through my head.
So you've got to a stage where you had when you were 10 years old, the accident happened, and you sort of built up, you've gone through, the torture of job searches and stuff. But then you got to uni, your second degree, and you're happy, you're in a good place. You say at that time you were happy with how life was going. And then this happened afterwards again.
Yeah.
What was that? What was the thought process inside? Like you were just mentioning now, but can we go a bit deeper into how you thought about, did it ever occur that one after another? Again, something else?
No. It's really weird. I've never asked why.
Yeah.
Strangely. But all I said was, if this is the best you've got, go on then, give it to me.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I didn't know who I was talking to.
Yeah.
I keep looking up at the sky, but I don't know who I was talking
Yeah.
to. It's a thing, and at that point, we'll state I was not religious. I didn't have a sort of belief system. I've obviously grown up, Hindu,
Yeah.
Swamiran sect and all of that, but I didn't have anyone that I looked up to at that point.
Yeah.
But I just looked up at the sky. But yeah, I was like, really? If this is the best you got, okay, cool, bring it on. And that was it.
Yeah.
Anyway, once the consultant came round again, he goes, I'll give you a few minutes, I'll come back. He went to explain dialysis, this is how it works. Transplant, this is how it is. Don't worry, we're going to keep an eye on you now. We don't know at what speed your kidneys are failing, so we can't tell you when.
Yeah.
But they failed within 4 months.
Okay.
Ironically, I was booked on a holiday just before they failed.
Yeah.
And I was about to fly the next day. It's the day before I got a phone call. It's like, we need you to come in. We need to fit you for your catheter. I need to start training you for your dialysis and everything. I was like, can I not do that when I come back? And
Yeah.
she's like, the chances are you're probably going to die on the plane. And I looked and I laughed. And
Yeah.
she's like, I don't think you realise how serious I was.
Serious it
No,
is.
I said, you don't know why I'm laughing. So I'm laughing because that's the second chance on a damn plane.
Yeah.
So I think this is my signal to go, right, I'll stay put
Stay-
here.
yeah.
So yeah. So I went into hospital, had the catheter fitted, and I left my house at this stage. 2.5, 3 weeks I'm in hospital. So I have training At this point also calcium has built up, some in excruciating pain, so
Yeah.
they've got to work on that. Catheters fitted, start my training, and then I come home. Now my back bedroom was just a spare room. Now it's a medical unit. It's stacked high with all my fluids and all the things. And I go to my bedroom and there's this big ass printer machine sat by my bed, and I was like, this is my life. Oh my God. Okay, cool, no big deal. Fab.
Yeah.
Gonna take my laptop and my books in bed, set my machine up because I used to dialyze at night. So 8 hours on the machine. Great time to do my work. Go sleep. When I come off the machine in the morning, shower and go uni.
Yeah.
And that's how I did it. So the remainder of my uni, that's how I did it. So a 3-year course became sort of 3.5 almost.
Okay.
Then I graduated. So in the midst of, so after my graduation, I was decorating my house because I was going to move out now.
Yep.
And the way I kind of did my house was as if I was on dialysis, and so like a video calling system put in and all of these things put in place.
Yeah.
And then I get a phone call 5th of January 2009, you know, Miss Vagjiani, we have a kidney for you.
Okay.
When can you come in? I was like, oh man, when can I let you know? Because I've got builders and architects tomorrow. And he's like, well, this is your life. I was like, he goes, you got 5 minutes. I go, but I'll be out in 3 days. He's like, yeah, we'll discuss that when you get here. I was like, okay, cool, I'll come in. And in my head, it's still that, you know, as I always say, it's like a scratch.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a little scratch and I'll be home.
You'll be fine on it, yeah.
And I didn't think the severity of when they call it, look, it's a life-changing operation, right?
Yep.
It's a life support, really.
Yeah.
I didn't see it like that. So yeah, I'm going to hospital. I get my, I have my transplant, and everything, touch wood, goes well.
Yep.
But it's after that where I'm ill.
Okay.
So literally the whole of 2009, I'm practically inside hospital. I've gone through the most intense life training in that not even a year, 9 months, than I think I have in my whole life.
Yeah.
It sounds bizarre.
Yeah.
But there were days when I wanted to give up because it was too much, and I'm doing it on my own.
Yeah.
And this is where life changes. In the ward, and I'm under sort of a lot of medication, some of it quite hallucinogenic a little bit. And I'm in the ward, and you know, at night it's a bit eerie, and an image of Lord Krishna comes up, very, very vivid, like very strong colours, you know, his blues and all of that. And I'm looking around the ward, and I'm like, can anyone see him? Because it's like he's in person, like you're here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what on earth is going on? Like, what is this? In his grandeur. And I'm looking around the ward, everyone's sleeping. And I'm like, what the hell is... And I'm kind of freaking out. Now, I'm intelligent, but these words that left me, they're not my words.
Yeah.
Surrender onto me what you cannot control. And I mean, I'm intelligent, but that's not mine.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? And he disappeared just as quick. And that left me, and I was like, and that's one thing I still remember: surrender unto me what you cannot control.
Yeah.
I've never read that anyway. And I was just like, what is that? And this is the time when life was getting just too much. Because at this point, just after this was where I had no white blood cells.
Yeah.
I've had my last rites read. I couldn't even tell my family.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because
So it
how
got
would
to
you tell
such a-
them
yeah.
that I'm going to die?
Yeah.
I didn't have energy.
It was at quite a serious stage.
Yeah. Because they didn't know
Yeah.
how I was going to navigate, because even the doctors themselves were at a stage where we don't know what to do, because I was that case.
Yeah.
You know, in the medicine leaflet, when they tell you 1 in 10 and 1 in
Yeah.
this, I was at 1 in 200,000. They haven't seen this case in forever. So they didn't know what to do. So they didn't know my white blood cells were going to come up or not. First week, nothing happened, so I think they were looking quite gravely.
Yeah.
I had no visitors because of infections and stuff. Second week, the bloods were getting better.
Okay.
Third week, we're sort of out of the danger zone. So those words were coming back again, surrender unto me. So I was like, do you know something? No matter what we can control, we control. But
Yeah.
there's something out there that's bigger than us. And that's where journey started. And that is where we're now sort of looking at year 2013 now. So I always call it my recent journey.
Yeah.
But that's where my journey of self-love started. And my journey of spirituality had started, but it wasn't as strong. It was sort of in the background, but now it's come to the forefront. And now I'm in complete peace and happiness from that day forward. Don't get me wrong, it didn't happen overnight. But I'm working through all the traumas, the threads of the traumas, and their threads and their threads, so I can live this. You know, we talk about moksha, don't we? And that's kind of one of our goals to hit in life. And it's not an easy goal, right? Because it means you've got to get rid of the ego. But I'm living my moksha in today's world, and I'm grateful I'm living it here, not up there. Right? And everything that happens in my life now is all bonuses. You know, I sit here, it's a bonus. Whatever comes is a bonus. I didn't ask for this path. But it's the most blessed path I can ever be on, and I'm grateful. But it just means I've got to do a lot of work on myself, a lot of truths. And like I said, look at my shadows. But I love my shadows, I love my light. You know, they both reside hand in hand. And it's one thing, you know, I talk about the lotus. You know, the lotus does its work in the mud. It has a choice though. It has a choice in the mud whether it will grow and blossom where we can take 6,000 pictures and selfies, or it will die and disintegrate back into earth. And that lotus will only be determined by either love or poison. And we have a choice every day. Do you feed yourself with love, or do you feed yourself with poison? And that's bottom line.
So it seems that from that day when you see Lord Shri Krishna and those words that stuck with you, so spirituality is now been a big part of your life. So what kind of a part does spirituality play in your life currently?
It's huge. It's the essence of who I am, you know. Like my name TULSI'S is not given to me purely by accident and because my Bappa loved it and saw it in a film. You know? It's the essence of TULSI. She loves her space. She'll thrive in the most unlikely conditions, and she'll be in full on, you know, in so much rigor. But on other contexts, she marries the saligram, the stone, connected to Krishna. And you know, ironically, it's really weird. As much as I wasn't, you know, religious or connected to anything, but I've always felt Krishna was my best friend. It's like he was holding my hand throughout life without realizing. Now when I see him, I have excitement. You know, it's like when you're going to go and see your best friend, the excitement it brings you. That's what I get when I see him. You know, and I just know my path, because I've surrendered. I've surrendered. It means I've given full control.
So how do you, because like same within when we read scriptures, whether we read the Bhagavad or there's the Shikshapatri or the Vajnanamat, or across many faiths, surrendering is a key word. You have to let go and let God, is what they almost say. Take over. But what for you, what was how did you surrender? What did you have to give up? And this is mainly because people don't know where to start. You know, we hear a lot in our community. You know, we hear the talks. We have to do this and we have to do that and we should be doing this, but nobody knows where to start. So for you, where did you start? What did you do to begin your journey on surrendering towards God?
Biggest thing is breaking the Maya, I think. Right, coming out of the Maya. We're so emotionally attached. And that's where we get caught up in things, emotional attachment. We give other people the knife to hurt us, right? Instead, it's why we're not taking control of our emotions. I always say no one can hurt you more than you can hurt yourself. So with that in mind is when I started to date again. Because, you know, the whole thing, I'm never going to date again, it's too much, heartbreak is this, you know, like the whole thing we always, I used to, but I went, but no one can hurt me as much as I can hurt me, which means I'm in control of my emotions. That person's actions are their actions. How I process and digest that is up to me. They can hurt me physically, yes, but that can heal. But the emotional impact, I have control of that. And back to what I was going to say earlier, is emotions are there for us to observe, not to participate. Today, grief, I had that this morning, but I'm not participating in it. It's there, but I'm not participating. I've just observed it, like a TV show. We're in control. We've got the control in our hands. We watch it. We can either rant and rave at it or go, that's great, switch the TV off or change channels. Same thing. I observe the emotion, it will pass. If if I entertain it,
Yep.
the ego wants to come in and create stories.
Yeah.
That's what it is. So now I broke out the Maya, right? I have no emotional attachments to anyone. And all of our scriptures talk about that.
Yeah.
They talk about the emotional attachment. Detaching. When you detach, you can love everyone. I can love everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody I hated 5 years ago, the word hate strong.
Yeah.
But didn't like him for whatever reason. The reason I didn't like him is because I didn't like that part of me in them.
Yeah.
That's all it was. Nothing else. And that's as simple as that. And perspective is everything, right? Perspective is everything. So that has helped me a lot. So spirituality is not something I don't need to tap in every day. I would be lying if I sat here and I sit here and, meditate for 10 hours a day. And my goodness. But I start my day with gratitude.
Yeah.
First thing is, thank you, Divine, for the breath.
Yep.
Thank you for letting me see another day. Thank you for whatever the day is going to bring me. You've done it for the greater good of me. And then it's the gratitudes of everyone around me. And then I always do the basic gratitudes, which is, a roof over my head, the bed, the pillow, the duvet, hot water, all the simplicity.
Yeah.
Because I know right now someone out there doesn't have that, even living in this country.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not even looking externally. Here, we know how many are suffering. So I don't take that for granted. And then my next prayers always go to the farmers, because without their dedication, we're not got food on our table. So, it's the simple things.
Yeah.
That's what brings me joy, because that's my few minutes to connect.
And how does that make you feel from when because you hear it a lot, and when there's a lot of people look for YouTube videos on how to improve your life, and I've heard that a lot. You should be grateful for everything, and you spend a few minutes in the morning. So how has that helped you? Actually, not how has it helped you, but what does that do for you?
Just joy.
Yeah.
It's just simplistic joy.
Yeah.
And we're always taught to go for this more. If you've got a house that's 2 bedroom, next thing you've been taught to go for 4 or 5. But if there's 2 of you, why do you need that? But everything we do is for the more. But when you have that more, you're still not satisfied. So we go for more. So what do? You work harder and harder and burn out, neglecting family or whoever you are, even your own self. More. You get to the more, and then you're still unhappy. I lost the weight. The world told me I'm going to be really happy, but I weren't.
Yeah.
I was still insecure. Today, I might not be the weight I want to be, but I'm bloody happy.
Yeah.
But so it's the internal stuff. The external will take care of itself after. But internally, to have this inner joy every day, that's what liberation brings.
Yeah.
But I'm not chasing. There's no more I need to chase. All I need to know is I need to be a better person tomorrow than I was today and yesterday. That's all I need to know.
And that's it. It's
That's
that simple for you, isn't it?
It's that simple.
Because we're taught, and I think there's nothing wrong with having things and wanting things, but like you said, we focus a lot on the external. How can I make myself look better? Get a 6-pack, will that make me happy? Or get muscles, will that make me happy? Or have a portfolio of 100 houses, will that make me happy? But we very rarely, like you said, touch on the internal happiness. How do you make yourself feel happy inside? How do you make peace with that? Because still, there's people who feel I'm big, or I'm too skinny, or I don't have what I want. So you see other people on Instagram with all the nice things, and you want that, but it doesn't bring you any happiness, isn't it?
No.
Yeah.
It won't, because Instagram is just a snapshot of a moment, right?
Yeah.
Today we can fluff this podcast right now and show how glamorous it was. But behind that, no one sees what's going on, right?
Yeah.
They're not seeing this full thing. So it's the same with our life. I'll take the 600 selfies, but I'll choose one. I didn't show you the other bits.
Yeah.
So I'm portraying something that I'm not. But we get caught in that.
Yeah.
Then what do? I want that. It's not fair. How did they get that and I can't?
Yeah.
And then what do? You persecute who you are. You strip away everything you are to gain that. And you're still not going to be happy. Why? Because that's not your life. When I realised that's not my path, what's the point of chasing a path that's not mine? Right? I'm Dulcie. I don't know how to be anyone else. I don't even know how to be Bhavik.
Yeah.
So why am I trying to be Bhavik when I'm barely know how to be Dulcie? Do you know what I mean? So, and my path is this. Doesn't mean yours is that. There's no point me equipping you to survive a plane crash when, what if that's not in your path?
Yeah.
So, the whole point is it's all given to us for the right context of our life.
Yep.
In terms of souls now, I've come here for my moksha. I've come here to finish my job, right? And, hopefully I don't have to come back. And if I do, it's for greater good than what I'm doing now. But the point is, we have to work on ourselves to better our lives. So not only does internal happiness is far more valuable than anything we will ever own, okay? And yes, material things are lovely, but material things are just distraction.
Yeah.
And like we talked about earlier about how people don't look at their lives, it's easier to look at others. Why? Because it's distractions. If you had to look at ourselves, like I said, it's not great sitting with yourself. So what do we do? Distract. We'll read, we'll watch TV, we'll gossip, we'll do all of these things, but we won't focus on ourselves. Because the moment you focus on yourselves, there's nothing to compare.
Yeah.
There's no one to compare to.
So you almost find yourself either a bit boring, or you just don't like what you see, isn't it?
Yeah.
So where would we start then? Let's say somebody was listening, and even for myself, let's say we want to start the journey on introspecting, on working on our internal happiness. For you, with your experience and the journey you've gone through, a beginner's guide almost, or some tips just to help people, because there's nothing quite like techniques. I could sit here and say, we should do this and we should do that. But if I haven't kind of gone through that journey, I don't have probably the right experience for that. Whereas, the things that you mentioned today, I think if people have techniques for those, I think it would be amazing, to try and start something.
Yeah, look, fundamentally, like me saying meditate, that's for someone who's an overthinker.
Yeah.
Is contradictory. But I say focus on the breath. Starts with the breath, right? We all have time. To say we don't have time is just absolute rubbish. When you're boiling the kettle, right? Watch the kettle boil, okay? And in that time, just focus on the kettle boiling and your breath. You've given yourself a minute, however long the kettle takes. Wow, you nailed it.
Mm-hmm.
Watching pasta boil, okay, it's not exactly exciting, but between the pasta boiling and the sauce cooking and you doing it, whatever, 20, 30 minutes, be present in that. Not like, I need to do this and that. Be present in the actual making. Whatever you're doing, be present in the thing. Being present is the most important thing we can do. We're not yesterday, we're not tomorrow, we're not 10 minutes ago, we're not 10 minutes after, we're here now.
Yeah.
This moment me and you sharing is now. What goes on after this podcast, that's for then. This is the bit now. If we focus on the moment now, that's where we start. What are we feeling in the moment? And we don't need to carry that feeling 10 minutes later. It can change. Prime example with my grief. It happened a couple of hours ago and where I am today, now. I'm not in there. I'm here. I might reconvene when I go. I don't know. Or I might just be like, hey, it's cool. We're good. It's just don't participate in things and then exaggerate them.
Yeah.
Observe them, feel them, let them go. Okay, Tools, that's easy saying let them go. How do you let it go? Well, you let it go by not letting it invade you anymore. If someone's hurt you, what part of it do you feel upset by? What was the hurt? Was it the betrayal? What was the betrayal? They didn't invite you to the party. Well, did it really make a massive difference in your life?
Yeah.
Not really. Okay, so can we let that go now? Do you then want to continue this friendship? Do you still feel this friendship was a good one? Anyway, because you might start feeling nitpicky about other things. Let it go. It's okay. It took that not getting invited to a party to you bring it to the surface, but there were other things going on anyway. Family members, same thing. They don't serve you. It's okay to let them go, because relationships and titles were formed on this earth, not up there. Yeah, mother, brother, father, sister were names given here. But mutual respect should be taught from day one, is self-respect.
Yeah.
We're all caught up in this respect elders, right? Day dot we're born. No one taught us to respect ourselves. So if an elder abused you in whatever way, and I don't mean physically, we had to accept it. But there's still this, but there's still that. So it meant that abuse was okay. And what does that do to our mental health? Yeah, it doesn't work, because we then hate ourselves even more.
Yeah.
We then think we're the problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so the point is self-respect first. Teaching our children it's okay to say to an adult, no, you are wrong.
Yeah.
Or you made me feel like this, and then not persecuting them. And that's how we're going to change behaviors and thoughts and patterns.
Yeah.
So self-respect is crucial. Self-love is vital.
Yeah.
Self-care is, there's no negotiables on that. There's a thing called Atomic Habits, I believe. I don't know the author. Absolutely amazing. If you create so many non-negotiables in your day, you won't have time for anything else.
Yeah.
You know, I'm busy focusing my non-negotiables,
Yeah.
my nutrients, my water intake, my fitness, my this, my that. My day's done. I haven't had time for other people.
Yeah.
And that is also quite fun. Create non-negotiables. So I'm not going to negotiate on my 3 minutes of watching the kettle boil, you know, or whatever it is. But it's whatever is not serving you, can let it go.
Yeah.
It's okay. Remember, you know, title does not mean entitled.
Yeah.
So if I'm a sister to you, doesn't mean I'm entitled to abuse you
Yeah.
because I'm older or younger. No, it's a mutual respect. And we're allowed to tell each other if somebody's upset us and made us feel that way.
Yeah.
We're allowed to tell each other. And that comes to self-respect.
Yeah. And the other bit I just wanted to touch on was the self-love. You know, a lot of people are not happy with who they are. And how do you, like for the journey that you've been on, and you know, you had skin grafts and you had the renal failure. So you've had a lot of things happen and changes to your body. So how have you made peace and you find out, you know, I'm happy how I am? And how can you give some advice to somebody out there who thinks, you know what, they're not happy with themselves, but how do you start the journey of that to say, you know what, let me change my perspective?
Yeah, so look, like I said, you know, I looked at life because I think everyone was external. And obviously being in our culture, everything is image related.
Yeah.
So of course I'm not going to be beautiful, because compared to, you know, a Bollywood actress who doesn't even look like a Bollywood actress herself, I'm not going to look like her because I'm not her. But yet I felt I had to be her.
Yeah.
The point is that I had to work from the inside out. Today when I sit here, I'm my version of beautiful. I'm not yours. And that's all I need to work on. So if you are your own version of beautiful, handsome, or whatever word you want to use, that's the only place you need to work from, not the comparison of the person in the catalogue, the magazines, or whatever it is. You know, that you don't look like that for a reason.
Yeah.
You were gifted whatever you were gifted for a reason. Sure, there is a world out there where if you want to, you know, modify things and that, fair play. But I'm going to tell you, even after modification, you may not find happiness.
Yeah.
You may not. I'm not saying you will, but you may not, because it's not going to be long lasting.
Yep.
Right? There'll be nice things to enhance. Don't get me wrong. I mean, my face, I've had medical tattooing to have eyebrows.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I never had eyebrows, so I didn't know any different. But the moment they've been on, I was like, oh my God, I've got a face now.
Yeah.
You know, I've had laser surgery on my face to smooth the scars, and yeah, it's made a difference. So I'm not knocking aesthetics, but they're to enhance, not to change.
Yep.
And that's where the difference is. To enhance something compared to concealing or covering or hiding, I don't advocate that.
Yeah.
So I had to look, like I said, I've had to look at the dark side of myself more than the light. The light is always there. Goodness is always there.
Yeah.
But the darkness is the bit we need to work on.
Yeah.
And once you made peace with that, that's it. And so, back to self-love. We're not taught that.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of our parents and even our grandparents' generation, they struggle. Yeah. So that's why everything becomes external.
Yeah.
People pleasing and all of this.
Yeah.
It's gripping. You know, people pleasing is very gripping. But I'm not here to please anyone else.
Yeah.
I'm here to please me.
Yeah.
I hope along the journey I get to, you know, use my care and compassion and love and kindness, and hopefully somebody feels better after leaving me. But I'm not here to please anyone.
Yeah.
And that's the difference.
And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said your job is to make the next day you're going to be a better person of yourself. That's it, and live your life to the fullest, whatever that means, whether that pleases other people, whether it doesn't. I know tomorrow I'm going to try to be a 1% better. And I think And again, it just stuck to me. I said it about 3 or 4 times. The fact that it's okay to be sad. It's okay to have grief, but they're memories, so you don't need to get rid of it. Memories are important. And do you still revisit, the things that you remember from 15, 20 years ago, and you can feel sad. It's okay. And how does that play out in your head and stuff?
Listen, we've all got unhealed child in us. Yeah?
Yeah.
It's the unhealed child in us that's the pain. So if some people have had traumatic childhoods,
Yeah.
and now they're adults and they're struggling in life, it's because behind that there's a wounded child.
Yeah.
I now go to visit my child, 10-year-old self, and I actually have conversations with her. First and foremost I did was apologize to her. So all the hatred I fed her, I allowed her the abuse, and I apologized to her. So by that I've done some healing there. I now go back and say, look, the reason I'm doing these campaigns and better representation, so you're not struggling at the age of 10. There's a role model, and that's me. So I have those kinds of conversations. So I think it's really important to look at our childhood traumas and address them, because as adults we can rationalize things, but as a child, how do you rationalize it? So if you visit that place and start healing that childhood thing, that for me has been very pivotal in my journey, because as an adult, rational is one thing, but I'm not here to make excuses for behaviors where they were abusive.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and say that was okay.
Yeah.
That is not. I call it out, and I'm very vocal in calling things out, even in the family.
Yeah.
Because if I sit here and be silent, and I go up there with that in my conscious, I can't. That doesn't work for me. I'm going with a clear conscience. I work with a clear conscience, so I need to do that, because I need to create a better ripple effect for the children
Coming
below
up.
me.
Yeah.
My niece is my absolute inspiration. Her name's Dea, so again, the most appropriate name for her.
Yeah.
She literally lives by her name. And I know she'll be cringing every time she hears her name, because she's like, Masi, how can I, be your inspiration? But I always say, you're my teacher.
Yeah.
And she used to laugh at me. And we're having conversations when she was 3. She'd laugh and she'd go, I can't be your teacher. I said, why not? I said, you teach me to be a better person. And I gave her full autonomy. You are allowed to pull me up and tell me I'm wrong. And no one can tell you off. And if an adult tells you off, you send them here.
Yeah.
No adult is allowed to put any negativity in you. And it's your responsibility to wash that negative away and say, it doesn't affect me. Because you need to know who you are. And I said, your measurement won't be academia. It'll be your heart.
Yeah.
You won't know it now. I didn't know it then.
Yeah.
But I said, one day you're going to know that it's your heart. It's going to be your superpower. And that's what I'd say to anyone with young children.
Yeah.
Teach them their superpower. And it's not academia. It's their quality that they bring to the world.
Yeah.
And everyone's is different.
That's true, yeah. Not everybody's the same.
No.
And there's a reason.
And we're not meant to.
You're not meant to be, yeah.
And that's why I would come to you and you'd come to me, and vice versa.
We share our differences.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And embrace them. Praise each other as well. 100%. And a lot of stuff you said, it touches on, even before you said you became more spiritual and stuff, there was just things about looking within and looking out. We learn about all this within our scriptures and stuff, and even it's just a good trait to have as a good human being, and also to work on yourself. To work on yourself, there's countless scriptures within our Hindu sect, but within so many other faiths, I imagine, about working on yourself and building a better person, doing, spending time for other people, and understanding there are no excuses. I think the biggest thing I can take as well is I want to start every business under the sun, and you always come with an excuse. I can do this, but there's an excuse. But you just spending an hour and a half with you here, I can understand, you know what? There's no reason to have excuses. You control what you can control. You do what you have to do. But don't make up excuses for no reason, and take some responsibility. I think, and for you, has that been a big thing? You just accepted what you are, accepted what's happened, and said, you know what, I'm taking responsibility of my life. Because to be fair, if I was in your situation, I would have crumbled easily. I would not be where you are today. 100%.
I've taken full accountability. I've even taken accountability that accident, I was there, I was meant to be there.
Yeah.
So there's nothing. I took full accountability. Everything, even a breakup, I've taken accountability of why that happened. Yeah. So again, it's not on him or whoever. I've taken accountability. The moment you take accountability, that's it. You know, no one's got anything on you.
Yeah.
There's no dirt on you. You know, and I live very transparently.
Yeah.
Very transparent, because I don't want no one's got dirt on me.
Yeah.
Because there's no secrets that I'm living by. Because secrets, what you're going to share with me is not going to be anything dramatic. I'm not going to be shocked by anything.
Yeah.
Right? But those things that we keep as secret is because we're worried about the backlashes of it.
Yeah.
The stigmas, the judgment.
Yeah.
And I'm here to say I'm a safe space. I'm not here about judgment. I don't care. I don't care.
You just don't care.
I don't care enough that whatever you've done, I'm here to help you come out of that prison in the head, to come out and live the freedom. Yeah. To take away the shame, the guilt, the whatever that's attached to it, and you can still live a fulfilling life.
Yep.
You can. All right. So by taking full accountability, you can. Not easy.
Yeah.
Because in this world, everything's a blame game. It's because of you this happened.
Yeah.
It's because of this and because of that. No. What was your role in this? So I always take full role in everything. Everything. And not everything means it was my fault. But I look at myself and go, what could I have done better?
Yeah.
And that's all it is. And in that little bit, what could I have done better is where I grow from.
Okay.
I have excuses too. So, you know, it's human. We all want to do 1,010 things. But what actually brings us joy and what will flourish in that business idea or whatever it is. And go with that. And always remember your why when you start something.
Yeah. Start with the why first.
Why, and then if you lose track, because sometimes, oh, I better do this for the extra amount of followers, and it doesn't feel right to you, go back to why. Yeah. And go back to what's right for you and your ethics. And that's where your business or your idea will flourish.
Yeah.
Because I've been caught in that. So put yourself out there, you're going to get your followers. And then what do I do with that?
Yeah.
They're not paying my bills.
And it's not you, innit? It's not.
But it's not me.
You don't get no joy from it.
I'm on organic.
Yeah.
You either follow me or you don't. Either way.
Yeah.
You know,
doesn't bother you.
It does not bother me. You know, I'm grateful. Don't get me wrong. Thank you for the following, but I don't go to sleep and go, "Wow, great, I've made it." No, I'm just doing me, and I remember my why. I could easily get sucked up into that world, in the influencer world, but I'm not an influencer, and I don't want to be.
Yeah. Well, I want to take it on a slightly different way with all our guests that come in. We have a question bowl in a little safari.
Looks like prashad.
No nice food in here. So it gives us a different insight into
right,
our
got to
guests.
choose one,
so
yeah?
pick whatever you want to pick from there.
Okay.
You can read it out loud and then...
What is your biggest fear? My biggest fear is if I don't get to fulfill one of my dreams, which is to, you know, be an international speaker and sharing my message of love and compassion. I think that would be my biggest fear.
I'm not achieving that.
I'm not achieving that,
Oh, that's nice to know. And to be fair, there's so many like amazing little sound bits you get, but the self-care, self-love, self-respect perspective it's amazing what you've talked about today. And we always ask our guests to bring on one item of value for them or something that's really close to their heart. So if you wouldn't mind bringing out that one item and give us a little backstory on it.
Backstory.
Yeah.
Okay, right, I'm going to show it. It's a funky Thomas the Tank Engine bag. It must be, 1985, 86, so it's quite an old piece.
Yeah.
So this belonged to my brother.
Yeah.
It was his pride and joy, and he was into Thomas the Tank Engine. And it's the only thing that I've kept from my past.
Okay.
You know, culturally, we've been taught to get rid of clothes and all of these things and stuff. So I didn't have any of that. But this is one thing I've held on to. So it's sentimental value.
Yeah.
It's also part of me that, you know, we talked about grief. I haven't let my brother go.
Yeah.
Like I've grieved my parents and why I needed them and not needed them. But with my brother, I have not let him go. But I don't want to. I don't want to tackle, how can I explain it? I don't want to tackle the fact that he's gone.
Yeah. Okay.
So I want to hold on to him. But that's not saying I know he hasn't gone. Of course, I know that.
Yeah.
Rationally, of course. But it's that grief part. I want to hold on to him. And it's just saying that we can. We don't need to get rid of things And they don't have to be jewelry and things like that to be sentimental.
Yeah.
It can be anything. And for me, it was this bag.
That's really nice to hear.
So that's the bag.
Yeah, the Thomas the Tank Engine bag. A lot of people probably got a lot of memories of Thomas the Tank Engine.
Yeah, it's so cool. So part of it still even smells like him. So yeah. So that's the bag.
Is there something you turn to when you just,
No,
No?
it's stored away. But every
Yeah.
time I see it, it's sort of that sense of it's
Yeah.
almost like my grounding.
Yeah. So we also have a signature question. It's called the Brick by Brick podcast, and bricks are, known for being a strong material, being their foundation. So, what's been that one core principle or foundation that you've lived by in your life?
It's a really good question, actually. I think it's going to be my faith.
Yeah.
Internal faith. It's the not giving up. Like I said, I don't think I've ever had an option of not giving up. And I think it's that innate spirit I've had. It's kept me going. So I think faith would be my foundation.
Yeah.
And it's quite appropriate, brick by brick, because coming from a family of builders
Yeah.
and that, so, seeing bricks lying around everywhere in the house, it was like, God, this is so frustrating. But ironically, when I see a brick now, it brings me my sense of grounding.
Yeah.
It reminds me of my roots, cultural roots, heritage roots, and reminds me faith is so important and crucial.
Yeah.
So sometimes when I do see a brick, and it's really amazing when I see your
Yeah.
podcast was called Brick by Brick, I was like, yeah, it's a grounding.
Yeah.
It's a grounding space. So faith and grounding comes hand in hand.
And I just wanted to ask, you said that your faith and the spirit, and we talked a bit before about there's a spirit inside of you that's not letting you give up. And what has feeded that, or what has made that spirit grow, that fire ignite?
Yeah, I think, well, when I was kind of lost,
Yeah.
I mentioned I saw Lord Krishna in the ward, but when I was lost, I was looking in different religions, and some things just wasn't hitting it for me.
Yeah.
So I read different scriptures, but the one that I kept coming back to has got to be the Bhagavad Gita for me. I've read it now 7 times.
Yeah.
Each time I get something, and every time I get something, it's because whatever perspective or wherever I am in my journey, I will get something else out of it at that time. And often I look back and go, oh, I read that and I never connected that before. But you'll always connect. Every time you read it, you'll connect something. Teamed up with the Mahabharata,
Yeah.
I started comparing my life to Mahabharata quite a lot. So I not only used to watch it, but when I read the book, and I read the extensive book, I started going, oh, I remember that happening in my life. Oh my God, that's that character, that's this person. Okay, I see it now. And I could see that in today. And these tales are still relevant now as they were then.
Yeah.
And that's what's important, So yeah, that has been my compass. That's my everything.
Yeah. And is that your go-to?
Go-to.
When you need to find something that maybe there's a blocker, or maybe there's a disturbance in your path.
It's my
of your journey.
solace.
Yeah.
It's my peace. It's my guide. It's my compass. It's my reminder of why I'm here and why I've started.
And that's a great way to finish the podcast. I think you even taught me so many things about putting a lot of emphasis on the scriptures we have. Sometimes we take them for granted. They're just there. You read them, or the elders read it. What is it, something for a younger person to take from the scriptures? But the fact that you've used that as a guide to get you through life, and you still continue to. And you read it 7 times, to be fair, and each time it's something different that comes out there. It's not the same thing. And people say, just lastly on it, oh, it's old. Things are outdated from back in the days. It's not relatable anymore. Is that the case, you feel?
No, it's a classic tale.
Yeah.
What was written however many thousand years is still applicable today. And the point is, like, even if you're young, it's still relevant, because you can still equate it to your life today. Okay? It doesn't have to be the same as what your parents' generation equated it to. It's still adaptable to today's life.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Even with the Mahabharata, I can see characters in my life now and apply that tale even to my story. So the thing is, you can still be spiritual, you can still be all of these things, amazing person, and still live the life you want.
Yeah.
And you're not doing disservice to your faith.
Yeah.
You need to remember that. And no one can punish you more than you punish yourself.
Yeah.
The biggest judge is yourself. God is not judging you. God can only love you, right? And he's given you all the tools, or whoever you believe in, he, she, whatever. He's given you the tools. Use those tools for the greater good of you and the humanity.
Yeah.
And that's what we're here for.
Well, Tulsi, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for
Thank
taking
you.
time out. I know you're really busy, you have a lot of things going on, but you took time out to come and sit with us on the podcast. Really do appreciate it, and I'm sure everybody listening is going to be amazed by it, is going to absolutely love the
Thank you.
listen. So thank you very much for being on here, and thank you everybody for listening.